Ellis, your host of the long-running agriculture feature called The Farm Gate. I bring the latest news and information on where agriculture is and where it's going to WHOW Ag listeners several times a day. From tariffs to treaties, from the Board of Trade to the running board on your truck, I cover Central Illinois agriculture every day on The Farm Gate. Hear it all on WHOW's many platforms on the radio or online. Join me, Stu Ellis, for The Farm Gate.
Hey, this is Todd Gleason from Illinois Extension here with a time change for our daily market report on WHOW. You can now catch our daily review of the commodity markets at 5:06 on all of WHOW's many platforms. You'll still hear all of our commodity analysts and weather professionals each afternoon, but at a brand new time. And you'll still hear the weekly wrap-up of the commodity markets right here on WHOW when Commodity Week airs Saturdays at 8:30 a.m. Remember the time change for the daily closing market report on WHOW at our new time, 5:06 p.m. weekdays.
Your friend in Central Illinois, WHOW.
Top of the morning. Thanks for being with us. I'm your host today, Seth Lawrence. The WHOW Morning Show streams to Facebook and YouTube, brought to you by Peterson Insurance, your Pekin Insurance agent in Clinton, and the owner of Peterson Insurance in Clinton. Jay Peterson is in studio with us. Good morning, Jay. How are you?
Good. How you doing?
Doing good. And by the way, thanks for sponsoring the morning show on YouTube and Facebook.
You're welcome.
Been a smashing success, I think.
I believe so.
Yes. Yeah. So glad to have you on board, and we appreciate you doing that with us, and appreciate you making time to come in and talk because, folks at home that have, when they check their insurance rates, whether it's auto, homeowners, life insurance, boat and all these things, Jay, they're probably seeing those numbers starting to go up. What's going on right now?
Well, we're in the middle of a hard market on personal lines. The big question we always get in our office, why are my rates going up? I haven't had any claims. So what's happened here the last couple of years is it's been kind of a perfect storm for what we cause a hard market. First thing is inflation. And then second thing is reinsurance markets. The reinsurance market, all insurance companies reinsure the top end of their losses. So they're different size companies retain different amounts of storm activity. So they may want only hold a $50 million per storm or a $200 million per year, and they reinsure that. Well, those companies, through all the natural disasters and things going on the last few years in our country, their cost they've raised it quite a bit, and also they're making companies retain more themselves. So they're passing it on to the consumers. And then the other thing that's happening is just all the storm activity and the claims we've had. So, I mean, those three things together, a lot of states like Iowa right now is pretty well shut down for new business. They've been hit by storms. California's pretty well shut down.
You say shut down, what does that mean?
The companies have just quit writing new business. So
you can't get insurance then? You
can get it if you have it, and the state has an exchange for auto and home, but a lot of companies have pulled out of those states, and Florida's always been that way, and it's that way again now. But so the companies right now are trying to make some changes to prevent that from happening here in Illinois. I mean, Illinois is a very vibrant insurance marketplace. We have several large companies domiciled here in the state and lots of agents. And so it's very competitive. So it'll monitor itself, but they don't want to get in that position where we can't have marketplace to write companies. And some of our companies have locked down no new business till October just to avoid some of the storm activity going on here lately.
Yeah, for sure. Probably a lot of upset customers at the same time. You're probably getting a lot of, well, if you can't do anything about my rates, I'm going to take my business elsewhere. What are you telling those folks?
Well, I mean, everybody's raising rates. I don't care what company it is. Some are ahead of others, so you may be able to jump somewhere and save for 6 months or whatever, but down the road, all companies are going to be forced to raise rates to stay in business. I mean, you look at repair cost on homes. I mean, just look what lumber's done since before COVID to now. I mean, prices have doubled, tripled, quadrupled, and then car prices. I mean, for the first time, and I've been doing this for 44 years, first time ever, used car values have appreciated. Insurance policies are designed for used cars to depreciate in value, not to increase in value. Parts prices, you go by some of these body shops here locally, even there's cars sitting around their lots full because parts availability. Then the next thing that's happening is most rental policies on a car insurance policy made so much a day, but they have a cap of how much they'll pay. Well, those are maxing out for the first time in my experience ever because the parts are taking so long to get here. And then insurance companies, I mean, they have help too. So, I mean, their power bills are going up, their gas costs are going up. It's all relative to what's going on in our country right now.
Yeah, it's interesting how, I guess I never thought of inflation impacting insurance, but that sounds like what it is.
Well, just rebuilding costs for homes and repair costs for vehicles, and all the newer vehicles especially have all these sensors and things. What used to be a small claim is now a pretty sizable claim. So
Yeah, and probably a lot of people sit out there and think, Jay, well, this is what I pay my insurance for, is to weather things like this. Why does why is my insurance being impacted by this?
Well, besides owning my agencies, I'm the chairman of the board of the Illinois Insurance Association for the Independent Agents, and all companies are faced with this. I had a conversation yesterday with one of the Department of Insurance regulators. Right now, the last 6 months, for every dollar that insurance companies take in for auto insurance, and this is all companies, this is an average of all companies, every dollar they take in, they're spending $1.10. So, and some of them are higher than that, and some of them are lower than that, but that's the average. So that tells you what's going on.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah, for sure. Now, our guest in studio this morning is Jay Peterson. He's the owner of Peterson Insurance here in Clinton. Jay, we were talking before we got started. I know that the state has done a lot of things, proposed a lot of things, talked about a lot of things to help, ease things like, grocery costs, gas costs, and now kind of insurance is coming into the conversation. Speak to what you're hearing at a state level and give us your feedback on it.
Well, there was a bill last year that was introduced to regulate auto rates in the state of Illinois, and our association, as well as the Mutual Association, other ones, fought that bill, and were able to get it defeated last year. But I look forward to that'll be coming back again down the road. Our argument to it is that the government really doesn't know any business, let alone insurance business. And we've seen what rate regulation has done in the health insurance for the government side. But there's so many companies in Illinois. It's such a competitive, vibrant marketplace for insurance that the competition will take care of itself as far as rate regulation. You don't need to come in and do that from a governmental agency side.
Yeah. Now, my question then is, if you let the marketplace take care of itself, will we get to a point where, if inflation decreases or we ever get out of this mess, do we get to a point where the costs go back down and we can go back to where we were pre-COVID, as you said?
Absolutely. We've had hard markets before. This is the first time in my 44 years we've had one when it comes to auto and home coverages. In the past, it's been more commercial lines, workers' comp, professional liability. And that stuff always cycles through. I mean, I read some articles where it says this might last 24 months. No one really knows what's going to happen here. I mean, we've got to get some relief in the storm activity, get some relief with inflation, which looks like is maybe coming down a little bit, but I haven't seen a big reduction in like building materials and car repair parts yet. That's what's going to take before this thing turns around.
Yeah. Now, are there markets that you're watching closely as it relates to whether it's indicators of where insurance may go next, or, things that are going to impact whether it's rates or things like that? What do you watch specifically?
We have a lot of trade journals. Our association keeps us up on that. Like I said, the IIA of Illinois is good with the Department of Insurance, what trends are coming as far as, because companies in Illinois have to file what rates they're going to use. So when they file a rate increase, that's a pretty good indicator of what's going on. Right now, those increases are anywhere from the smallest one that our lobbyists have seen as 15% up to 30%. So, I mean, when those start dropping back, when they file new rates, they can decrease those rates. We'll watch that and see what's going on.
Yeah. Yeah. As the president of the IIA, do you have upset agents? I mean, what are the agents that are on the ground having to deal? I mean, and you're an agent
absolutely.
yourself. What are they telling you?
Well, they're struggling. I mean, especially agents that may only have one or two markets, and one of those may be shut down till October right now. Well, what do you do? Well, IIA does provide a service for some markets they don't have access to. I'm also part owner of an aggregator, which provides markets to companies. We're fortunate in our operation that our 4 locations and our involvement in our aggregator, we've got about 25 plus carriers. So If somebody doesn't like the pricing or coverages that they have on their policy, we've got places usually to move them to help them out.
Yeah, yeah. Now, why? So, I guess my question is, no, like we see in other sectors where competition is a good thing and it'll drive those prices down, but it sounds like everything is going up in insurance. Why is the market, like your agency is charging this for homeowners, but another agency is like they're charging the same thing? Why is that? Why can't that guy say, well, I'm not going to charge as much as Jay. I'm going to have it for this cost? How about that?
Well, the agents don't set rates. The companies set rates. And all companies right now, large or small, are struggling with this inflation, this reinsurance issue, and this capacity issue. So until some of those, one or two of those factors get some relief, I don't think you'll see a big decrease in rates by anyone. I mean, like I said, timing is everything.
Mm-hmm.
Some people jumped out in front of this and raised rates early. Some of them sat back and watched, and now they're having to do it.
Mm-hmm.
They're behind the game a little bit, maybe taking a bigger one than the ones up front did. Some of them taking multiple small ones over a small period. So it's all pretty relative. It's just a problem right now. And we advise people just to come in and meet with us or their agent and go over their policies. I think customers too are going to have to retain more risk themselves with maybe a higher deductible. A lot of companies now are going to like a percentage wind hail deductible or a $1,500 or $2,500 wind hail deductible to relieve some of the storm damage.
Mm-hmm.
And so a customer is just going to have to, start participating in this themselves. You don't want to turn a lot of small claims in either, because then that makes it harder to move to someone else for a better price.
Yeah. Now you mentioned, this maybe falls more on the consumer side of the equation. What else can we do? We sit down and meet with you. What else? What are our other options?
Well, I mean, just driving safely. Most of the companies offer discounts for multi-lines. Most companies offer discounts if you pay it full up front instead of paying monthly. Like I said, retaining more deductibles yourself. Which that's going to be forced upon consumers, I think, in the property market, especially going
Mm-hmm.
forward.
Mm-hmm.
But we had the same thing back 30 years ago, 40 years ago. I mean, when I started in 79, we wrote a lot of homeowners policies that had no deductibles. And then we went to like 50 and 100 and then it transitioned to 250 and then kind of 1,000 now was kind of the thing. Well, now I think we're just going to see that next step up to maybe 2,500. And some companies went to a percentage, which is like 1%, but it's not 1% of the loss, it's 1% of your coverage A. So if you got a house insured for $300,000, which is pretty typical in this town when you figure replacement cost, you got a $3,000 deductible. And that's just kind of, I think, where things are going to be at. We're seeing a lot of changes with roof claims that's going to transition away from full replacement to they're going to have schedules. A lot of companies will for the age. And
so what does that mean? Like the
way policies were written 10, 15 years ago, if you had a 30-year-old roof and a hailstorm came through and hit it, they would pay for a new roof. And then the last few years, several companies have adopted endorsements where if it's over 15 years old, then they go to depreciated value, figure out how much lifetime left on that roof and pay off of that. So that's the big thing. I mean, look at Chatham, Illinois. They've been hit 3 times this year with golf ball size hail. I mean, and that's one of my partners over there in our aggregator. And I mean, it's just unbelievable. I mean, there's people who's had 2 roofs put in their house in the last 12 months. It's just amazing what's going on. And I'm not a global warming advocate. But definitely weather patterns are changing. We're seeing this in our ag sector. We're seeing this in everything. And we've had changes like this before in the past, and it's got to cycle through. And I always say, hopefully next year it'll be normal, but I don't know what normal is anymore.
Right. So, exactly. Yeah. What is normal? What is normal? So Jay, your customers out there, sounds like best advice is to sit down with you and, work through their options and see where they can go. How do they get a hold of you to do that?
Well, stop by at 117 West Main. Give us a call at 935-6605 or check us out at peterson.insurance or find us on Facebook. And we operate here in Clinton, Farmer City, and Moweaqua and Pana. But we have several companies, and I'm, in today's world, anybody that says, well, we'll always be cheaper than XYZ, that's just not the case. Everything's individually rated anymore. But we have lots of options, and we'll work with you to find something that fits for you.
Sure. Very good. Jay Peterson, owner of Peterson Insurance, our guest in studio. And of course, Peterson Insurance, the sponsor of the WHOW Morning Show, streaming to Facebook and YouTube. More to come with Jay on the Morning Show.
WHOW.
I'm Len Casper, the voice of the White Sox Radio Network. Follow the Sox across central Illinois on the Big 1520 WHOW.
Sponsored by Baum Chevy Buick, Clinton Community YMCA, Covenant Animal Clinic, Jason France, your State Farm Insurance agent, Midstate Eye, and Nan Krang with Remax Choice, the 217 home team, all in Clinton.
Keep your health at the top of the list. We know you've got a lot on your mind. Breathe easy. The SIU Center for Family Medicine in Decatur can help and is accepting new patients. Family medicine covers a broad spectrum of care for all ages, all genders, and every kind of disease. They do this with a wide offering of treatments and specialty clinics for all patients. Call 217-872-3800 to schedule your first appointment.
Central Illinois' leading online source for local news, police blotter, for the record information, obituaries, and more is DeWittDailyNews.com. Since 2008, DeWittDailyNews.com has delivered fresh, online content to internet readers. From the City Council, to School Board, to the County Board, and more, DeWittDailyNews.com covers the local news you expect from the area's #1 local news source, and it's all absolutely free. Now you have even more ways to access DeWittDailyNews.com. Whether you're at your desktop, laptop, tablet, iPhone, or smartphone, DeWittDailyNews.com is delivered to all those platforms. That's right. It's even there on your iPhone and smartphone. The same local news, weather, and sports that's on the full-size edition is on your iPhone and smartphone just by going to DeWittDailyNews.com. If you haven't tried it, why don't you go to Central Illinois' leading online source for local news, police blotter, for the record information, obituaries, and more on your desktop, laptop, iPhone, or smartphone, DeWittDailyNews.com.
Your friend in Central Illinois. WHOW.
Once again, good morning. Thanks for being with us. I'm your host today, Seth Lawrence, and the WHOW Morning Show streams to Facebook and YouTube, brought to you by Peterson Insurance, your Pekin Insurance agent in Clinton, and the owner of Peterson Insurance, Jay Peterson, is with us in studio this morning. Now, Jay, in our first segment, you talked about all the storms. Like Chatham's been hit with 3 storms in the last year. We saw that big derecho roll through, and Wapella hit hard. Yeah, and some, folks in Clinton, they had some pretty serious damage here and there as well. What's been kind of the ripple effect of that for Peterson Insurance? What have you seen there?
We've had the Wapella storm. We had some claims. Obviously, Leroy's been hit a couple times too with hail, and up there in our Farmer City office, that area's been hammered a couple times.
Sure.
Payne office, Taterville's been hit multiple times this year. It just seems like this has been an awful year for hail. It just seems like every storm seems like it has hail in it this year, or these high straight line winds. It's just hard to explain.
Sure. Now, has that obviously, I'm sure you anticipated some calls on that. So
absolutely.
Yeah. What has it increased, business? Has it increased, folks coming in and talking with you? What have you seen there?
Oh, it increased claim business, but that's not always good business. But yeah, it's been fine. We've had several claims, like most of them been handled pretty promptly and dealt with fine. So
yeah. Sure. Anything else on the storm? Any other ways it's impacted Peterson Insurance at all?
Just we were out of power for a few days, and then we had to operate off cell phones and what have you. But yeah, so
sure, gotcha. Very good. Well, you were telling me, we had an interesting conversation off the air about, you were talking about in that first segment how there's rates are different for different areas and things of that nature. A lot of data that these insurance companies have. Speak to that a little bit. And I know you heard it firsthand kind of about some of this as well. How about that?
Yeah, we at the national board meetings, we've been monitoring a lot of things going on with this AI, artificial intelligence, and the data these companies have and share now is, I don't think people realize that insurance companies, they acquire data from people like Carfax, OnStar. They know how many times you get your oil changed. They know if your car's been in the shop, they can monitor how many miles you drive. Some of the companies now are offering these plug and play things where they monitor your driving. But they really don't need those. They can get that data elsewhere. I mean, homeowners, we're not very far away from companies having the technology to know how old your roof is through imagery and through building permits and your square footage, your house, or your mortgage. I mean, it's unbelievable how fast this is happening. I've been doing this a long time, and I knew that data has always been a big part of it, but it's really snowballing right now.
Is that a good thing or a bad thing, you think?
We'll find out. I don't know. I don't know that it's good. Everybody knows everything. It makes it more efficient for people like ourselves to process applications and to quote risk because it's much faster if everything's in there instead of having to contact the customer, go out and measure houses and take pictures, and people try to remember what year they put their roof on, things that we do now and we've done for years, but I mean, those are going away pretty fast.
Yeah. It'll make it easier for you. But how about the customer side of things? Is that a good thing or a bad thing for them?
I don't know. It's, everything we do now is kind of big brother-ish, I guess is the way to say it. There's always somebody watching. There's always a camera. There's always data being sold or exchanged between different segments of our life. So it's just going to be new and different, and we'll have to deal with it.
Why does an insurance company need to know, where you're driving, how fast you're driving, the miles you're driving? Why do they need to know those things?
It's just rating information. I mean, to know who's safer drivers and how many miles you drive a year. Obviously, the more miles you drive, the more risk you have of having a claim. But I said, when I started years ago, we had 4 or 5 classifications for auto rating, and now, I think Progressive, one of our carriers, they have a couple of thousand. I mean, so it's just a matter of everything from where you live, what kind of car you have, where you drive, if you went to college, if you own your home. It's just unbelievable the data that they use for their rate calculation.
Yeah, there's probably a lot of folks at home with that 1986 Chevy Silverado that are pretty glad they held on to that thing now. Yeah,
right.
For sure. But at any rate, Jay, what else has been going on in your world lately? What's kind of kept you busy? What's been on your radar lately?
Oh, the storms obviously kept busy this summer. We do a lot of crop insurance, so that's just getting tucked away, getting our acres reported, and we'll look into harvest. We've had a dry summer. We're a little concerned about our crop this year. We'll see how it pans out here.
What will that mean? What will a dry summer and potentially a dry harvest mean for insurance?
Well, claims for the federal crop insurance program, they can guarantee 85% of their 10-year average yield. The last 10 years have been pretty good in this area for crops. So a lot of guys have very high APH histories, and so we'll just have to take a look at it and see this fall.
All right. Easy enough. Well, again, Jay, how do folks get a hold of you to sit down, review policy, things they can do to cut back, save some money, or, just have a conversation about insurance?
That's what I suggest people just, whether it's talking to us or talking to your agent or whatever, just sit down with them and talk about what's going on, because things are changing fast, but there's always ways around. We've got several companies. If you don't like what you have, come see us. We're at 117 West Main, 935-6605, or Peterson.insurance.
Very good, Jay. Thanks for coming out and talking with us.
Thank you.
Jay Peterson, owner of Peterson Insurance in Clinton, our guest in studio, and Peterson sponsors the morning show streaming to Facebook and YouTube. The morning show continues next as we take a look at network news on WHOW.
WHOW.